Alright, so here's the deal. Today we're diving into RuneScape Dragonwilds, a brand new survival RPG from Jagex that's just launched into early access. It's very cozy, it's very chaotic, and it seems very ambitious. After spending over a dozen hours playing solo, exploring, building, and honestly, dying a lot, I've got some things to say. As always with early access games, what you see here is a work in progress. Systems will definitely shift over time along with the balance of the game, and features like fishing and difficulty options might still be a long way away. So consider this a snapshot of where Dragonwilds stands today, and whether it's worth jumping in now or waiting a bit. Spoiler alert, I'd wait a bit. And if you like what you see in this review, I'd ask you please subscribe to Senzu Games for more videos like this one. So let's get started from the beginning. The early hours of this game are tough. You start with nothing and move on to fragile tools, a limited inventory, and a painfully slow trickle of resources. Every wall you build and chest you craft feels hard-earned because it takes quite a while to grind out the necessary materials in the beginning. But there is a curve here. There's a moment where things start to click, and once you have a decent base built, with some basic workbenches and workstations, things do speed up. Progression here feels earned, and when it works, it does feel rewarding. That being said, if you're playing solo, especially right now, you should know what you're signing up for. This game is extremely punishing for solo players. I don't necessarily think I'm some incredible gamer, but I do have quite a bit of experience with survival crafting games and RPGs over the years, and this one, as it is right now, is very difficult for solo players. There are no difficulty settings in-game at the moment, so there are not really any safety nets. And when you die, you lose everything. Of course, you can always go back to where you died and retrieve your gear, but at one point, I was killed by a dire wolf in one of the higher level zones, and since you drop your armor and gear on death, I couldn't then go and retrieve my lost gear because every attempt ended in another death. Because there's no option to turn off gear loss or scale the world to solo play, I was effectively locked out of everything I'd spent hours already gathering. Of course, I could have backtracked and grinded everything again, but honestly it just wasn't fun. I didn't look forward to wasting more time gathering resources just to go pick up what I had dropped earlier. I am going to give it a few more tries, but that's how I'm feeling at the moment. The death aspect aside, the combat in Dragonwilds is quite fun and doesn't pull its punches. Goblins attack you in numbers, often before you've got decent gear. One bad pull of enemies can send you straight back to your bed, and they will randomly hunt you at night or attack your base, seemingly at any time. I did enjoy this part, even if they do spawn out of nowhere, but it's always fun defending a house I built or whatnot. While the challenge is part of the appeal, the balance can feel off at times. Enemies are pretty relentless, and especially so when you're under-geared. That said, when it does click, it does work. Dodging enemy attacks in an overgrown ruin while you're chipping away at their health can be genuinely tense and memorable, but constantly managing a minuscule stamina bar and armor that you have to keep recharging does get tedious after a while. Perhaps later in the game it gets easier, I just haven't got to that point yet, I'm assuming. Now as for the leveling, this is where the game nails the RuneScape feel. Every action feeds into a skill. So if you're chopping trees, you're leveling your woodcutting. You're mining some rocks, your mining skill goes up. It has that familiar feedback loop. You grind, you hear a ding, you unlock some perk or magic ability to speed up your gathering or fighting process. It really works, and it meshes beautifully with the survival structure. Even in frustrating moments, seeing those XP bars climb up gave me a good sense of satisfaction, although there are still some noticeable missing features such as magic skill or like magic combat as a skill. I also want to touch on the building. Honestly, this is probably my favorite part at the moment. Building in Dragonwilds is intuitive, it's flexible, and it's really fun. It's always fun for me to choose a nice spot to settle down and start up and build a house. Materials have weight similar to Valheim, and the snap point or like the grid system, it really makes sense. The ambiance, the wind in the trees, rain on your rooftop after you build a house, having a crackling fire, it feels really great and really cozy. And while the rest of the RuneScape world feels punishing, your base becomes your refuge, and returning home after adventuring out genuinely did feel nice and cozy. They nailed the building aspect here. If you're getting Valheim vibes from the whole thing, you're not alone at all. The music, the visual tone, the way the monsters sometimes raid your base, it is all reminiscent of the classic survival game Valheim. But Dragonwilds is like the tougher sibling. Valheim was hard at times, but it gave you some breathing room. Dragonwilds really doesn't. There's no scaling, like I said, no difficulty sliders, and there are quite harsher penalties for dying. This is almost as if Valheim launched a little earlier in development, I'd say. It's not bad at all, but I think it still needs some time in the oven or some fresh updates. I also wanted to quickly mention there is controller support, but it's far from finished. Some menus totally ignore your controller. Inventory management is tedious on controller. So if you're planning to play from the couch, keep a keyboard and mouse close by because you'll definitely need it. And one surprising omission, especially for a game built on RuneScape's DNA, is fishing. It may sound small, but in games like this, fishing is more than a mechanic for me. It's like a quiet, meditative counterpoint. It's one of my favorite parts of these survival crafting style games, or MMOs, and the lack of fishing really sucks at the moment. The absence of it leaves a gap in the cozy sort of aspect. I do hope it's on the roadmap soon. For an early access game, Dragonwilds runs really well. On a mid-range PC with a 4060 and a Ryzen 5 7600, I consistently had above 60 FPS, with only light stuttering when entering new areas. Bugs do exist, there's some floating objects and missing sound, but nothing immersion breaking. It's very stable and that's good enough for me. So, should you dive into Dragonwilds? If you loved Valheim, you crave a challenge, and especially if you have friends to play with, absolutely yes, there's real potential here. The core gameplay loop is rewarding, the building is excellent, and the world is full of cool locations and moments. But if you're planning to go solo, I would definitely hold off for now. Until there's difficulty scaling or a more forgiving death system, the experience quickly shifts from cozy to crushing and sort of unfun. I think this is a game definitely built for groups and not lone wolves, and while I am rooting for it to grow into something amazing, I would say it's not quite there for solo players just yet. Thanks for watching this review. If you found this helpful, feel free to like, subscribe, or share your thoughts in the comments. Am I wrong? Am I right? What do you think? Until next time, take care.